What is up and how's it going? Welcome back to another edition of the Noble Steady Sort of Sports Talk. We got a recap episode, and guess what? Little bonus, an ATS episode. So, no longer for intro from me. Let me get to it. Joseph, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh man, I'm happy that it's the carnival season, baby.
That it is. That it is. Shane O'Mac, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, my friends. We doing well. It's a little chilly down here in South Louisiana.
Just a little bit. If you see us, we're all bundled up right now.
I can see my breath in in front of the screen.
Well, you are in the cave. We all know that, right?
No, well, there is a window right behind me, and these windows suck.
Well, that doesn't help at all. But glad to hear y'all doing great. Well, gentlemen, we wrapped up the NFL season. We're one step closer to crowning a college football playoff champion. We also got some NHL news. So what do y'all say? Let's dive into it.
Certainly.
Let's do it.
All right. So let's go in. We're gonna start with a little Saints news, and our favorite player, Derek Carr, came out today in an interview, or not today, I should say, came out in an interview and said he's not going to take a pay cut, guys. He's not going to take a pay cut because of what he's put on tape. He said it wouldn't be fair to him because of what he's put out there on tape, but he's willing to restructure though. But he's not taking any less money. So I'm going to ask y'all real quick. So I want to just ask one question. What is up with the him with the tape thing? Like, what 5-12, 7-10 tape are you talking about, bud? You have looked like crap. You haven't played all the games. So I'm just asking y'all, have y'all seen something I haven't seen?
I mean, maybe he's still living in week 3 and thinks that that's what's going to carry him to give him the money he's owed. I don't see where this tape exists. I don't like. Is this like the Zapruder film? Like, what is this kind of thing? You know, we're supposed to see something we don't. I think ultimately what's going to end up happening is the Saints are going to look at him and go, you know what? Let's get you the hell out of here and let's just figure it out for the next coach.
Who, I guess. Shane?
I think this dude needs to go back and look at whatever tape he's looking at because he's a clown and he's delusional. He's overpaid. He has not looked good. He looks indecisive. He makes bad decisions. And he's not – I mean, he doesn't want to take a pay cut because he's not going to get a contract from any other team. He's just not good. You know, they're looking – they're so tied to this guy that they've even thrown around potentially looking at John Gruden because John Gruden's, I think, the only one to really get anything out of him. But he just needs to go. I don't think they're going to cut him. I don't think they're going to be able to because I think it only saves him like $1 million more. But the dude's he's just delusional.
Yeah. One thing I want to circle back to with Derek Carr, you know, the funny thing is, like, we all know that taking a pay cut, right, would definitely help the Saints with their cap situation. With as horrible as it is almost kind of needed with the level of plays produced. But I mean, if you're going to live on your laurels of the first 2 games, dude, like, no, there's 15 other games that happened this season, not counting the other ones. There's been too much on the field with him pouting, showing terrible body language and stuff. Like, that's one thing. Another thing where he's like, oh, I've never had a problem with a teammate. A-hole, bro, you had multiple instances last year of having on national television problem with your teammates. I don't think he's a good vibe for this locker room. It's time to move on, take it on the chin, do a Russell Wilson kind of cut, and I'm done. I'm just done with him. I agree with you.
They you know who took pay cuts? Tom Brady, Drew Brees,
Yep.
Like guys who were true pros, true teammates. And I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but he was underpaid almost his whole career because he was chasing championships. And he did what was best for the team. This dude's just a clown. This is his probably last stop, so he's just clinging to all the money. You know, the best thing that can happen for the Saints is if they do cut him, they finally are committing to do a rebuild. But unfortunately, with Loomis still at the helm, he, for some reason, thinks there's a window that's open that has been closed for years. and he continues to assume it's open.
That's fair. Joey, anything you want to add?
Uh, it just baffles me that, in a place where we had, one of those quarterbacks you mentioned, Drew Brees, that, he doesn't want to take a page out of his book. It frustrates me that, I look at it, I get it. Like, he didn't have an offensive line. He didn't have, injuries were a problem. Injuries are going to become more of a problem now that the auctioneer deal signed for 10 more years. I don't see how, you can think that and say, "Oh, I'm a good leader," and then now, F my team, I'm not going to take a pay cut. It's, like you said, time to move on. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Let's just figure something else out.
Also, do y'all remember like the reasoning for him jumping and breaking his hand like a complete dumbass was? Because he was trying to win for his teammates. And the reason he was trying to rush his way back was for his teammates. Yet he's not willing to take a pay cut to help his team and his teammates. A little hypocritical to me, if you ask me.
I mean, if you look at it, I saw something today based on a projected cap. The Saints are $78 million over the cap. Now, I don't know. I know we're going to get into it later. Ramcheck restructured, but as of
Let's just do it now.
Before that, $78 million. The next closest team is $19 million.
That doesn't shock me.
It just is. We are in a bad way, and we could talk. Ramcheck is going to retire, right?
Yeah.
Like he could have been one of the best right tackles ever. He's got the knee problem. He restructured his deal to create cap space, but he's going to retire.
He'll probably end up in the Saints Ring of Honor if I had to guess. I mean, he was great. Like, all pro level right tackle.
He was great when he played.
Yeah, 100%.
His $16 million gets us to $62 million over the cap, and the closest is still 19.
There are some maneuvers by cutting people and stuff, but I agree. And that's what scares me, right? Kind of wrapping this whole car thing up in a bow. That's what scares me, is that he's willing to do a restructure, and I'm scared that they're going to have the idea of, all right, let's restructure him this last time, but kick the can down the road again. And that absolutely scares me because, like you said, it's delaying the rebuild that needs to happen. And I don't know if it is.
Yeah, the roster is not good. Our best players are old. They're all north of 30. We don't really have a true young stud on the team. We've got some decent picks this year, but if you have to restructure to get under the cap, you're not going to be able to go get any really top tier free agent. You're going to go bargain hunting at the end of free agency, and you're going to be at best where we are this year.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was listening, I should say, to the New Orleans Football podcast with Nick Underhill. Great listen if you're a Saints fan, highly recommended. He was talking about, like, they were going through the list since the opponents were kind of already listed out for the Saints next year, and 5-12 is where they're at again. It's like, and that's the sad reality where we're at. Like, there's, like, even Rattler, right? You can look at him and be like, okay, he never really played a full, complete, good game, right? He would come out, and I think that's indicative of the offense, right? They would either have a great first half, or they'd be absolute garbage the first half and a great second half, or vice versa. So consistency is needed, but we'll see where it goes from there. So let's continue with the Saints and talk about their last game. They end up losing to the Buccaneers, which end up giving the Bucs the NFC South title. And hats off to Mike Evans. As a Saints fan, it hurts me to say this, but dude's the first ballot Hall of Famer in my book. When you're up there, up there with the names of Jerry Rice, it's kind of easy in my opinion. So anything y'all want to add or talk about the game, Joey?
I mean, I was able to see the first half, kind of bits and pieces of the second half based on, where I was. I was in Nashville. But I mean, it looked like it was going to be a Saints win in the first half. I was excited. I was the only person in the bar that was excited because I was the only Saints fan there. But it's like you said, for some reason, it's just that second half happens, and it's almost like I don't know if it's just an adjustment issue, if it's a, maybe they were just comfortable and didn't think a change needed to happen. But I mean, it's division games. They happen like that. And Tampa had something to play for. I'm not saying that, New Orleans had a city to play for, but I mean, it's the end of the season. You're really just trying to, get through this game with no injuries so that you can evaluate and honestly work on a coaching search, because that needs to be the number one goal right now is, who can take this job over and bring us back to the promised land, hopefully.
Good point. Shane O'Mac. What you got, buddy?
Nothing on the game really. More on like what you touched on for next year. When you look at our schedule, I could see us going 0-6 in our division. Carolina seems like they're putting it together.
Dude, I think Bryce Young.
Yeah, the Falcons I think are only going to get better. There's so much talent on that team, and the Bucks just continue to be winning without a defense. So even if they address their defensive issues this year, so it's not a bright future for the for the Saints, as unfortunate as we'd like it to be. But I agree. Hats off to Mike Evans. I'm not a huge fan of him as a person, but as a player, you can't argue with what he's done.
No.
I did see a crazy thought, and I want to get y'all's opinion on it. So he tied Jerry Rice's record.
Yep.
But it took that 17th game to do it. So does that tarnish the record any kind of little bit? Does it, do you put that asterisk just like people are saying for Roger Maris?
Nope. No, I would say because he's missed time. If he played a full 17 games, he would have had it before the 16th game was over. To me, I know he's been banged up a little bit. To me, I would asterisk Saquon Barkley if he played Sunday and beat Eric Dickinson's record. Eric Dickinson did it in 16 games. Even though O.J. Simpson's a terrible human being, he got over 2,000 in 14 games. So to me, I think it was pretty easy for the Eagles to sit Barkley because you're not comparing apples to apples. When you look at what Mike Evans did in the time played, he didn't start a full 17 games this year. So I don't think you can take it away from him.
That's very fair. I think that's very fair. But what I will say, and I'll kind of add on that, is that especially in football, that extra game and the kind of record he was going after, which is longevity in seasons, yeah, he may get an extra game to put numbers on. He's also taken an extra game of beatings, though. You know what I mean? So for the fact that it's the longevity for how long he did it is what makes it impressive, and I don't think tarnishes it. And I agree with Shane about the Saquon Barkley one. Even though, look, it's not their fault. If they break it within the regular season, they break it within the regular season. Records are meant to be broken. It's sports.
I just wonder, with the whole thing about, and I'm not trying to compare this to anything, the Mark Gastineau record. When Strahan broke it, it was 16 games. If, let's say, they go to an 18th game like they keep talking about they want to do, and you have, say Aiden Hutchinson, comes back, is stronger than ever, and at game 16, he's got 19 sacks. Well, it's, what is it, 22, 21 and a half, something like that. Let's say breaks that record in that 18th game. Does that, is that a record that you sit there and go, well, you did break it in the regular season. However, Strahan did it in less.
Once again, I mean, the leader in sacks this year was 17 and a half. Mm-hmm. I think the league is advancing. They haven't come close to that in 17 games. So it's the same thing. Peyton Manning went for 5,500 yards or 5,400 yards and 55 touchdowns in 2013. They had an extra game this year. I don't think anyone broke 5,000. I think Joe Burrow was the closest at 49-13. So, the leagues get the way they have kind of adjusted the game. Certain records, I would say that may, once again, the rushing record. He had 16 games to do it. He was healthy. He didn't do it. But even with an extra game, these guys aren't coming close to what Peyton Manning did. So if they come close to it, same with the sacks. I mean, you to get 23 sacks, you're having to have multiple weeks with sacks and
Multiple
stay
sacks.
Multiple sacks per week. Yeah.
multiple sacks per week, stay healthy. So I think the one the one that probably I would say would never be broken is the interception record
God,
because
we need like 14 or something.
it's 14. And once again, if the day and age we play in, if you're that good, they just don't throw against you.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no way. That's like the single game one's like 4 or 5 or something like that for a single player. It's like that will never be broken.
Yeah. At that point, you're running the ball 90%
right.
of the time.
Yeah.
You're like, do not throw the ball. If you do, we're going to cut your ass.
So I want to kind of quick fire some other NFL stuff, and then we'll get to the Saints head coaching search. How's that sound?
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. So kind of rapid firing off. The game of the week was the Lions versus the Vikings. And let's just say the Vikings didn't show up. Sam Darnold didn't show up. And look, I appreciate the aggressiveness they had on the 4th and goals calls, but man, you got to take some points there at a certain point. But look, the Vikings, I think they're going to be okay. It's a tough game they got to go play, but the Lions just look like on a mission right now. Thoughts?
The Lions, I mean, it's like we said, the Lions showed up, the Vikings didn't. Sometimes it's your game and sometimes it's not, and it just wasn't the Vikings game. I mean, I will say that, I didn't get to hear the game. I saw the game. I'm sure Detroit was rocking.
Yeah.
And, that's a dangerous thing now because this is a team that has not sniffed any kind of success until the last 2 years where they could be in the Super Bowl, at least like this. Their first time, I think, going 6-0 in the division. And this is a dangerous team. They still they have injuries, but they have found a way to be, hey, next man up, let's do it. And they made a point to prove that, hey, we're gonna make this. We're gonna make this deep run.
Gonna go with the more Shane O'Mac.
I mean, they look great. The Vikings look flat. I'd be curious to see what y'all think. Montgomery's coming back for their first game out the gate. Do you think them trying to work him back in might hurt them more than it helps them? Because if you watched the game, Gibbs looked like a man possessed. And I think the more touches he gets, the deadlier he is. So I think that split backfield, while it did work during the season, Gibbs has just been on fire lately. I don't necessarily know you need to work David Montgomery in to the extent they had during the season.
I mean, I think what you do is you sit down with David Montgomery. It's like, hey, you're going to be back. We're going to roll with Gibbs this week as the first and second down back, just because he's the hot hand, and then put him as that third down back and be like, all right, when we need you, provide that skill that you have. And, second half, then you look at it and you go, okay, is David Montgomery hitting a stride? Is Jahmyr Gibbs producing like last week? Then make your decision from there. And you just got to you sit down with both of them and say, we're just going to do what is best for the team. We know you both want to be in there. And I feel like Dan Campbell will do a good job of saying, hey, put the team first, because the only way we win this Super Bowl is if you put this team first.
Well, yeah, 100%. I don't think they're going to have any issue with egos or anything like that. The way I kind of take the question is just more of a production kind of standpoint. Dude, if he's healthy and they're running 100%, I think the team is going to just – so basically what I mean is, like, if he's 100% healthy, then they're going to rock and roll like they were beforehand. If he's a little nicked up, I think they're just going to probably do a split of maybe 70-30 instead of 50-50 like they were. But you can't put the entire workload on Gibbs just because you don't want to run that into the ground. What makes it special is that change of pace, like smacking him out. But I do agree with you, and we can talk about this on the fantasy podcast, and you know how much I love Bijan Robinson, but I don't see how you don't say Gibbs is number one running back.
You definitely protect David Montgomery.
Yeah,
in these couple, like at least in this first game, you say, let's see what you have, like with you back. You
Yeah,
know,
but to have him out there as a thumper is still a vital and important part of this offense.
right. You're still utilizing him, and you're still sitting there saying, like, hey, this is what you got. If he's at 100%, utilize the hell out of him. But if he's, like you said, he's still nicked up, back him off. Get
Yeah,
him
of
at
course.
least, get him a couple hits, and then next week, then you evaluate. The good thing for them is they have 2 weeks to evaluate this. Like they have this week,
Exactly.
they're off. They could
Yeah.
watch whoever they're about to play.
Shane, anything you want to add about this game before or about the Detroit situation before I move on?
No, I just hope they go to the Super Bowl and play the Bills. I'm going to keep
Yes.
hoping for that.
The
I'm
Super
speaking
Bowl
it into existence.
America deserves.
Yes.
So let's talk about an AFC team now. And, we had a little suspense going into the last season of like, who's going to take that last playoff spot? Well, guess what? As soon as that Broncos game kicked off, there was no suspense. They absolutely dog walked the Chiefs backups. And yes, I said backups. 38-0. And I think the most important question coming out of this game is, what the fudge happened to Carson Wentz, man? I remember a day and time where this dude was the front runner for the MVP. And then one torn ACL later, he forgets how to play football. And my God, I'm watching this game and I'm like, how? How are you this bad? But I'll leave it to the floor. Shane, why don't you take this one first since Joey went first last time?
Well, I don't think you can judge Carson Wentz off of playing with third and fourth string players, which is basically Andy Reid might have brought people in from high school to play this game. He did not play anyone of significance. He had his backup quarterback Carson Wentz out there, but Carson Wentz looked great when he had actual NFL players playing with him.
Ooh, okay.
So I still don't think Carson Wentz doesn't look like himself, but I mean, Andy Reid knew what he was doing. He did not want to play the Bengals.
Yeah, right. I think
Okay,
that's the best.
so the Bengals were so bent out of shape with the people he put on the field, they submitted something to the NFL. Once again, you never leave it up. Me and Amy were talking about this. You never leave it up to anyone else. You have to put yourself in. Shout out Tyler. Tyler called this the New England Patriots Bengals game, said that will bite them in the ass. I don't know if he realized it would bite the Patriots in the ass because maybe Jared Mayo would still be Jared Mayo might still be the coach and they'd still have the first pick, but you have to put yourself in a situation just in UFC, everything. You don't leave it to the refs, you don't leave it to anything. So the Broncos do look good. I don't want to take that away from them. Sean Payton has that. I mean, Bo Nix has looked incredible since October. I think he's figured it out, but I don't think this game shows anything for a playoff because they played against Lighthouse for the Blind.
Joey, on that note, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, you can't read into it. Like Shane said, Carson Wentz was the Carson Wentz that you know of at the Eagles with number one talent, and Carson Wentz, like you said, is third string and fourth string players. They didn't try. They had that thing sealed up. They just went out and said, "Look, I would rather have the Broncos in the playoffs than have the Bengals in the playoffs." It's that simple,
100%.
And I guarantee you, not one team in the AFC side wanted the Bengals in the playoffs because, we've said it all year long. They have been one mistake, play, drive, like something at the end screwed them out of a game multiple times where this wouldn't have been a conversation. So, you just, the Chiefs knew what they were doing. If the Eagles would have done it, it would have been even funnier. I'm kind of disappointed they didn't, but
there's not really much more to say about the game.
There's nothing to say about that game. It was, the Broncos had something to play. Again, the Broncos had something to play for. The Chiefs didn't. It was set. They probably went out there and said, we're going to run the triple option from 1945 and probably would have been fine.
Jesus Christ. All right. Yeah, like I said, there's not really much to talk about this game. I agree with both of y'all. Not much to read into here. But since Shane brought it up, try saying that 5 times fast. Let's talk about the Patriots, winning in the battle of the backups. I mean, Joe Milton looked good, but there's nothing really to talk about this game except for the Pats winning and dropping from the first overall pick to the 4th overall pick. And man, the Patriots fan base is upset right now, but not as upset as Gerard Mayo, who is out as the head coach of the New England Patriots. And I don't know about y'all, but for them to have a prepared letter that quickly, it feels like this was already in the works. Don't you think, Shane? Or I guess Joey? Not kind of
word has been going around the Boston area that Gerard Mayo was not long for that job. I was hearing rumblings back in like week 10 that he wasn't going to be the coach very long. It's you can't win that game. I know the players don't give a damn about, first round picks and all that stuff that are on the team now. They're playing for a job.
Yeah.
So maybe you sit there and go like, hey, I want the defense to work a little more, but they're not going to listen. They want to win the game. This guy's about to be let go of he's about to be, future endeavored.
Yeah.
We got to do what we got to do for this franchise because whatever coach comes next, which I'm hearing probably Mike Vrabel is the favorite, simply because he was a Patriot. It's, if people were saying in week 10 that he was out, there's no reason to play hard.
When there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing.
Yeah.
Shane, what you got, bud?
I mean, I think they get better from a coaching standpoint. Gerard Mayo, I don't think was that good of a coach. Them dropping to 4, Patriots fans really shouldn't be that freaked out either. I mean, you're probably looking now that, hypothetically Cam Ward and Sanders go 1-2. You're picking between Travis Hunter and McMillan at 4. I think you're going to be okay. So you have your franchise quarterback. I think may look good. Get him a weapon between one of those two guys. If they're going to hire Vrabel and need a strong offensive coach, and just move on. I mean, you had years of success. I don't really feel bad for the Patriots fans here.
So here's the thing I was reading. They were basically saying that they wanted the number 1 pick so they could trade back and get more assets because the team was that bad. Another thing I want to touch on is, man, when you said Tet McMillan going to the Patriots and pairing up with Drake May, I just got a warm and fuzzy inside. Could you imagine? Oh, be great. Be great. I don't have a pick high enough to get him in Dynasty, but, there's always a chance. But I think that would be perfect. I want Drake May to have a weapon. That he has been exactly what you thought he was going to be, and a little bit more with the poise and the moxie and athleticism. So that would absolutely excite the shit out of me. But speaking of other firings, let's just roll through it. We had the Jags. Doug Peterson, not really a shock here. He was let go. Another one that was a real kind of shock was the Tennessee Titans fired their GM. Let's kind of dive into that. But they're keeping their coach. I'm not a huge fan of this kind of process. I feel like those two have to be married, but it's going to be interesting. And do you think that the new GM is going to want to take a QB and put a stamp on it, or you think he's going to try to move that pick or something? Shane?
I think the Jags and Titans got it backwards. I think the Jags should have fired their GM, and they could have fired Doug Peterson too, but at least fired their GM first. Their owner's delusional, thinking that Trent Baalke is going to reinstill the winning mentality and sense of structure. I don't know what he's been watching. You're talking about a guy that passed on Aiden Hutchinson. It's not like he took Trubisky over Mahomes, but still.
Walker's been solid, but we can all agree that Hutchinson's been. I want to give Walker his due. I don't want to completely trash him, but he's been solid, but he's not Aiden Hutchinson. Yes.
He's made some other questionable decisions, and the Titans firing their GM. I mean, I just don't get it. Like, you have the first overall pick. Once again, if you're going to be a GM, take a quarterback. I think you want to have the head coach you feel that can develop the quarterback. And I don't know if that guy's it, but we'll see.
Joey, where's your head at on this one?
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this GM was the reason that Mike Vrabel left.
No,
They-
no, 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 no,
No?
no, no, no,
Okay.
no,
No.
That's what I'm saying. Correct
He
me if
had-
I'm wrong.
He had no idea. So basically, the Vrabel firing,
Not
the
left, like he got let go.
yeah, the Vrabel firing. The rumor is that when he went up to New England, I think it was for Kraft or Tom Brady or some kind of ceremony, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he basically said, "Enjoy it. It's not like this everywhere." And apparently, there's some backhead, like some clashing.
They think he said it as a shot at them and
as
stuff
a
like
backhanded
that.
compliment, yeah, backhand
No.
thing. And apparently, she was salty about that. The owner, Scrunk, I think her name is, and that was kind of the kickoff to basically him being let go. So no, this guy had no idea and was not a part of that firing. I'm pretty sure he was just called into a meeting and Vrabel was sitting there and he's like, "Oh, by the way, you're fired, Vrabel."
Okay. Yeah, it's. I mean, I know we just talked about it with Gerard Mayo, but I think you have to give a coach a couple years just to kind of, he didn't draft. Maybe he didn't draft certain players in certain schemes that didn't work out. It was Vrabel's guys, so he didn't have a chance to really build the team to be his. So that's why maybe the owner looked at it and said, "Look, I'm going to keep the coach to give him another shot, but the GM's got to go because he didn't build the right team."
Yeah, but the thing is, he only
I
had
mean,
2 years.
I know, and I think it's, or maybe they see something that, maybe they know something that's available that we don't, and they're just saying like, "Oh, we gotta fire this guy to hope we get this other dude or something."
I just think this organization's a dumpster fire right now.
I mean,
if you're
I
asking
know-
my honest opinion.
I know when I was in Tennessee over the weekend and Saturday night, I was just kind of being stupid. I'm like, I wonder how much tickets are for this game this weekend. There were lower bowl tickets pretty far up that were like $20 a piece. And you don't get that. You don't even get that at the Superdome when the Saints were this bad. So, I mean, it's.
No, they got the number 1 pick, but I mean, look, there's a reason why they were that cheap because they were bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's. What GM do you want to basically build a franchise off of the number 1 pick for this year? That's what they're looking at. And maybe, like I said, maybe there's somebody that is available that may be looking to go somewhere else that they can snag up.
I mean, I don't know. That's the thing about GM jobs. You never hear or know the candidates beforehand, right? It's kind of kept under wraps. But let's move on. Talking about head coaching openings and everything like that. I want to get y'all's opinion. To y'all, I know we talked about Trent Baalke earlier, but Shane, we talked about this off air. These two teams, the Bears and the Bears and the Jags, kept their GMs, which has actually hurt them in some candidates' eyes. Do you agree with that?
I do, yeah. I mean, I like Ryan Poles for the Bears, and I would say the Bears, from a roster standpoint, might be the most appealing opening. They have talent on both sides of the ball, but like Ben Johnson he doesn't even want to interview Ben Johnson because Ben Johnson might want him out, so he's, he can't do his job to the fullest because he's worried about his security. And I mean, the Jags job is just, you've seen what Trent Baalke's done or not done. And so that to me would make that job appealing. I think that the Bears job's appealing for anybody that is good with Ryan Poles. But, some of these coaches are coming in and want their own person, right? You could see it. I mean, look at Detroit. Dan Campbell and his GM are on the same page, so you have to find that. And I don't know if necessarily both of those teams find that. It limits your ability to grab a top tier coach, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say so. Plus, you don't want to be a coach like for the Tennessee Titans where the GM gets fired, because, like you said, Shane, if they hire a new GM, the GM comes in and is like, "Hey, look, I have this guy that I worked with over here. I think he's a bright mind. I want to bring him as the head coach. Sorry, good luck in your future endeavors." So it just creates organizational chaos, right? And you want stability, like you said. Joey, what do you think about this, buddy?
I mean, it's a franchise problem. I think it's less about, coaches and GMs. It's more about the whole organization. The Bears have been in this cycle where they draft a quarterback in the first round and they fire the head coach later that year. So, I mean, development of a quarterback is going horribly, horribly wrong in Chicago. And there's nothing that they have done to say, hey, we're going to turn this thing around, other than, oh, okay, you're not, you're not doing it right. Get out. Okay. Next guy, you're not doing it right. Get out. But it's like, by the time they get to the point where it's okay, time to draft a quarterback, their leash is already short enough. So I don't know. If I was a head coach, I surely wouldn't want the Chicago job. And the Jacksonville job, at least it's sunny. You have a franchise
Go with the weather.
Yeah, I mean, it's, that franchise has been rumored to go to London for years, and they're not going to do it now because they're about to renovate their entire stadium. But at some point you look at a franchise and they do have talent, yes, but you don't know what kind of quarterback you're getting with Trevor Lawrence this year. Are you going to get the one from a couple years ago? Or are you going to get this again? So honestly, neither one of those jobs look good to me.
All right, I don't think you're being really fair to Trevor Lawrence here. That dude has been beat to hell this year. He played with pretty sure a pretty banged up shoulder. I mean, it just has been continuity. I don't disagree with you on most you take. It's just that when I think you're not giving Trevor enough due.
I'm just saying, like, when he came out the gate, he struggled a little bit. Then he started turning it on, and then it just seemed like,
it's
like you said, he got banged up, but at what point do you say, okay, let's start helping him to where he won't get banged up?
Well, you're pretty much stuck with him because you just signed a $250 million contract that he paid this last offseason. So you got to make it work with him. I think, honestly, Trevor Lawrence is a plus, if you ask me, because these contracts are only going to get bigger. So you might as well get a young quarterback while you have one, at least has shown you the ability to be a good quarterback. But I mean, he's had the weirdest career, though. Like Urban Meyer the first year, the second year is great with Doug Peterson. Then he's just been battling injuries the last 2 years. I mean, so not last year, the year before that, he was kind of nicked up. But anyway, I'm just saying. And I'm nowhere near a Trevor Lawrence apologist by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and it's kind of like how I was with Derek Carr midway through the year. I'm like, hey, he doesn't have an offensive line. Give him a break. That kind of thing.
Yeah, but you can't.
But you can't compare. You can't compare Trevor Lawrence and Derek Carr because Derek Carr hasn't won, I think, anything, and Trevor Lawrence is a national championship winning quarterback.
It's comparing a Porsche to a Hyundai.
Hey, those Hyundais are really good vehicles.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of the car comparisons there. So Shane, I want you to take this next one. And I'm going to tee it up for you and let you run with it afterwards, okay? So one team that actually kept their coach and GM, that's going to be the Indianapolis Colts. But probably one of their biggest cheerleaders and fans, and I mean that lovingly, is Pat McAfee. But he had some choice words for him. Shane, I'm going to let you go with this one, buddy.
I added this to the doc. I mean, Pat McAfee is just eviscerating the Colts organization and their players. And I would say when you look at them as an organization, as a team, there's some glaring teams out there who are way worse than them. I would say the Saints, the Jets, the Titans, the Raiders, the Jags. And I didn't see them as being this target that, I mean, he just doesn't stop going in on them. Zaire Franklin led the league in tackles. He said, you march him out of town. He was dogging out Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I can get people being critical of Richardson because he didn't have the greatest year in the public light, but they didn't look horrible all year. They flashed greatness. So that would be my question: are the Colts to you as bad off as an organization as Pat McAfee makes them?
Joey, I'm gonna let you take this one, and then because I have some thoughts on this one. that may be a little long-winded. So I'm gonna let you go first.
I mean, this is the same organization that hung a banner that said AFC finalists. You don't do that. That currently hangs in the Barstool Chicago office, by the way. The Colts, they had promise, and somehow they were able to fumble it really bad. And that since Peyton Manning's been gone, yes, you had these years with Andrew Luck, but then once Andrew Luck retired, I feel like they're playing catch up, and they're trying to get and trying to get and trying to get, and it just doesn't. It's going to take ownership change for that to happen, I think, because it's a dumpster fire of an organization from top to bottom, and especially Pat McAfee, who is there all the time and basically has his finger on the pulse of that organization. I tend to believe him. Like, he's not going to sit there and say that if all the things that are going wrong aren't going wrong.
100%. So here we go. I'll be honest, say, as an outsider looking in, I'm a fan of Ballard and of Shane Steichen. I actually, if the Colts got rid of Steichen, I'd be like, look, go get him, Saints, like right away. I think he's one of the better offensive minds in the league. With that being said, to me, this can be traced back to picking Anthony Richardson and that first offseason that you had with him last year. The first thing he is exposed to is Jonathan Taylor holding in on the sidelines in a hoodie and basically being like, hey, I'm not doing anything until I get paid. Look, it's his right. I'm not hating on it. I'm not a fan of holding in, though. If you're not going to be in it, if you're not going to participate, you're not going to practice, we don't need you out in the field being a distraction. So you're already showing these young guys and these rookies like Anthony Richardson these bad habits and that behaviors that are being accepted and allowed. It sets a bad precedent, and I think this is that him tapping his helmet at the end of the year is a culmination of him and all those bad habits just coming into the national light. So the key to this whole organization is Anthony Richardson. You know that it's the quarterback. He's only essentially a rookie. This is essentially his rookie year. Was it great? No. Was there promise? Yeah. But a mixed bag nonetheless. They need to invest as much as they can into the development of Anthony Richardson. And look, I don't know how he is in the building or anything like that. I don't know if he wants to be great. But this offseason needs to be all about him. Because this organization is going to go where he goes because they made that investment in him. That's just where I'm at with it. And, maybe bringing in some more veteran leadership is the way to go. Because I don't think this team's that far off. Does that kind of answer your question, Shane?
No, I mean, I agree. I would take the Colts roster 100 times out of 100 over at least 5 NFL rosters currently. So I was a little surprised. Maybe he just, maybe he's doing it for effect sometimes, but I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting question to pop up there. I think the same thing. Maybe we'll go to Joey first. Which head coach opening is the most appealing? Because, I mean, to me, there's a couple out there are appealing. The rest of them, I'm like, I don't know if I want to touch that team.
It's almost, I'd almost wonder, what it would just depend on what situation you want. Do you want to be a coach that, hey, I have a team that doesn't have anything, start from scratch? Or do you want to be someone who's like a couple pieces away? And I mean, right now, I think the Patriots job is probably one of the more appealing, simply because you have Drake May, who's the quarterback for the future.
Bingo.
So that's set. You have, a decent wide receiving core. You could pick up a wide receiver in the draft, as you mentioned earlier, to kind of bolster that. And then you have an owner who is very patient. I mean, yes, he fired Gerard Mayo this game or this season. However, when you look at Bill Belichick, he won those Super Bowls, and then Tom Brady leaves, and he's like, "You have a job until whenever." I think honestly, the Gerard Mayo firing is because something became available, Mike Vrabel, and they want to get him in house. I think he was their pick because they picked Gerard Mayo before Vrabel was let go. Then once Vrabel was let go, it was like, oh damn, and they just stuck with it. I think Vrabel was their guy from the jump if he was available.
No, yeah. I mean, look, I've been hearing rumors and rumblings about Mayo, like we talked about earlier, since like week 10. And that's just because of defense, some questionable game time management, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, look, I'll go first on this one, Shane, if you don't mind, since I'm already talking. I definitely go Patriots as my number one. For sure. Drake May, you kidding me? And I was gonna say the Jags actually as my number 2 choice. I'm gonna go with the Bears though. I'm gonna go with the Bears as my other choice since Joey took the Patriots. And same thing as you said, there's a quarterback in place. There's weapons. Defense needs to be adjusted a little bit. Needs to at least tackle better. And then the offensive line. You build the trenches. That team is good, and you just gotta kind of get Caleb out of this mode of every play needs to be a home run. You know what I mean? Just take what the defense is giving you, and he'll get there. I have confidence in him. Shane, what were you thinking, buddy?
I would say the Bears because I will respectfully disagree that the wide receiver room for the Patriots is complete trash. It's not even decent.
No, I didn't say it. Wait, did I say that?
I said that.
Joey said that. I just their best receivers, their tight end on that team, or maybe a running back. So when you look at the Bears, I think they're a couple offensive linemen away from being a legit contender. They're in a tough division. That might scare me away. But I think Patriots, Bears, I think we can all agree are 1-2. You just depend on how you rank them. And then I would say Jags 3. And then it's pretty rough after that.
I mean, so you're basically picking between the Jets, Saints, and Raiders. The Saints, we can all agree, is probably the least attractive job.
I would say the Jets.
No. If you take Rodgers out of it, you have young talent there at least.
Their owner's a lunatic, I think. Their owner
100% he is.
Is just as bad as Jared. I think he's just as bad as Jared Jones. I mean, Jared Jones looked like a complete fool starting Trey Lance and basically screwing Cooper Rush out of $250,000. Whereas the Bucks are drawing up a play to pay Mike Evans $3 million.
Jerry's gonna Jerry, man.
Yeah, I mean
except I think Woody tried to Jerry for a second when he's sitting there saying, "I don't want that guy's Madden rating is too low."
Yeah, so the Jets and the Saints, I'd say are tied for worst. At least you can go hang out and see some good shows in Vegas, and there's some good, some
Brock
other
Bowers.
things to do out there. Yeah. Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers, Max Crosby.
I don't know if Max Crosby's back. I could see Max Crosby being gone next year.
Let me ask y'all something real quick. If you take Trent Baalke out of the equation in Jacksonville, where's that job rank for you?
Probably 2. I would move the Patriots down.
The Patriots. Okay.
And the only reason I say that, I would probably move the Patriots. Like the Patriots in Chicago would be like tied because both of their divisions are tough. Whereas I think if you can get in a good situation with a GM and a coach for the Jags, I don't think that division's as tough. The Dolphins are on a downslope. We just talked about the Colts. The Texans haven't looked that great. So I feel
the Titans are in that division, not the Dolphins.
Oh,
yeah. I was like, Dolphins.
The Titans are terrible. So I just think that you can compete in that division.
I mean, I think they should ultimately possibly trade the Colts out for the Dolphins geographically, but
okay, we're not getting to that.
I'm not. Yeah,
I'm not getting to that. Not getting to that. I guess I'm just so high on Drake May, what I've seen this year, that I'm like, dude, that's the guy I want to be linked with, right?
I think he's ahead of schedule too.
Dude, he's looked so good this year. So good. just on a crap team, because that team has to be one of the worst rosters, if not the worst roster in the NFL. But so let's talk about the Saints real quick. We have some head coaches. I'm going to run through them real quick, and then we can talk about who our favorites are. Some head coaching candidates. We got Aaron Glenn, who we have a interview scheduled with. Mike Vrabel, who we've talked about. Joe Brady, who we have requested an interview with. Mike Kafka, Anthony Weaver, who we've completed the interview for. Kellen Moore, David Shaw, Darren Rizzi, the interim head coach, and Cliff Kingsbury. So, to me, on this list, who I want is Vrabel. Who we're probably going to end up with is Joe Brady or David Shaw. And I wanted to get y'all's opinion on that. Shane, what you think, bud?
I don't think that this job is very appealing. I think Kingsbury's going to have a bunch of people looking at him. I think Vrabel, Glenn, the Ben Johnsons. So I think it's going to take, like, Joe Brady probably wouldn't get an offer from anyone but us. Maybe same as David Shaw. I think I've said from the get-go, even though Darren Rizzi got requested from the Jets, the players seem to respond to him. So I think it's going to take someone like that. It's just not an appealing job. We have another 2 or 3 years before our cap really resets with all these bad deals, and that's based on them not making any more. So I don't know. I just feel that that's how it would fall. I'd like to get some of these other guys. If we're going to get stuck with somebody, I'd rather an offensive-minded guy than a defensive-minded guy. That's why I've always said, I think we should try plucking the offensive coordinator from the Rams or the 49ers, the Dolphins, people who are offensive-minded people. So, but I could see, my heart of hearts tells me someone like you just said, Joe Brady or David Shaw.
David Shaw is the interesting one, though, right? Like, I heard that, and I'm like, don't hate it. Not overly excited about it. But I feel like he could be the right guy. Does that make sense? But that's just the feeling I get. Like, we need an adult in the room. We need a program builder. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Joey, anybody off this list that kind of sticks out to you, buddy?
I mean, they've been talking about Aaron Glenn since November. Joe Brady, I think he would be, like Shane said, the only team that would give him an offer is us. The Anthony Weaver one was kind of weird that came out of nowhere for me. David Shaw also wasn't expecting that name to come up.
Yeah,
and I think honestly, like you said, the players respond to Rizzi, so I think that's why you give him a chance. The record, you don't, but just the way the players responded to him and wanted to win for him speaks volumes to the type of coach he is. Honestly, again, I want Vrabel. I wouldn't be mad at Aaron Glenn, and probably my, I don't know who I would have as like hey, this could be it. I have seen John Gruden's name thrown about. I don't know how much.
Barstool, though?
He does. He apparently has a deal in his contract that if the NFL comes calling, he can get out of it.
No. I mean, like, does he personally have that itch again, you think?
I mean, he wouldn't put that clause in his contract if he didn't.
That's very true.
And if he didn't have that itch, then he would just be like, "Hey, I'm with Barstool, for a while." I want Vrabel or Glenn, and the rest are just whatever we get.
Fair enough.
The Gruden thing I can't deal with. I don't. With everything that's been leaked, how do you have him come coach with a league that's predominantly African American? I mean, how do you guys? I don't know how he would ever coach again. I mean, regardless of how it was leaked or his whole problem. The stuff that he said in emails is out there. I don't see how anyone wants to play for this guy.
That's a fair point.
You know, he's in Barstool with a bunch of talking heads and they're enjoying it, but like I don't see, if I'm a player in the league, I don't see how I'm going to try to play for this guy.
Yeah, it's kind of like Hulk Hogan, right? Everybody, there's a certain branch of people that like him, and then everybody else in the nation's kind of like, dude, are we just going to ignore what this guy said? Like,
Exactly.
yeah. Like, by the way, Netflix on Raw and Netflix just happened, and what I'm saying here is Hulk Hogan came out and got booed out of the building. I don't know about y'all, I had such a chuckle at that, and then he's just like trying to power through that promo, and he's like, "Yeah, America's beer, blah blah," and everyone's like, "Ooh."
So was he legit just there to sell his beer?
100%, 100%.
He just needs to go away. As someone who grew up watching wrestling religiously, my older brothers, you know, the age of information and everything that's been shined on him, he's just not the person that he portrayed himself to be in the 80s and 90s. And he's had his spotlight. He just needs to go away.
Hey, little Hulksters, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and drop hard R's. You know what I mean? Like, that's the Hulk Hogan way. But anyway,
Jeez.
Taking it off of that, but staying on the wrestling thing, I did see. I've seen a couple videos come about where the moment where they had the fight and Rey Mysterio got lawn darted into the
Kevin
trailer.
Nash. Good old WCW.
Do you know where that happened?
New Orleans?
The Disney Hollywood Studios entrance.
It doesn't shock me.
I didn't know that until they showed oh, this is what it looked like. And it was like a couple weeks where they recorded Nitro in front of that. And I'm like, that's just like the most random shit you ever see.
Talk about random shit, though. Speaking of that, the original plan was to throw him through the freaking window. But
yeah,
then
couldn't get him high enough.
Yeah, he couldn't get him high enough. But anyway, we digress.
Hulk Hogan's going to be the defensive coordinator for John Gruden at the Saints.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God. With Paula Dean playing a special role in the culinary thing?
She's the OC. She's going to be the OC.
No, she's in charge of nutrition.
Yeah, she's the head of nutrition. Oh, my God. Got Kramer. Kramer's the OC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. One last thing I want to touch on the NFL before Broseph kind of takes us home. I know I said we were going to do the ATS today, but, man, guys, we got on a roll, so I think we're going to split that to a second episode. But one thing I want to touch on, last thing about the NFL is there are some wildfires that are happening that could possibly affect where a playoff game is played at. There are currently wildfires in Los Angeles or surrounding areas that could possibly force this game to move from Los Angeles to Arizona. And I guess my main question is, does that hurt both teams? Does it help one team? To me, I think that would actually benefit the Vikings because you don't have that home field advantage. But, I mean, it is Los Angeles. Let's be realistic. There's not really a home field advantage because other people's teams, fans just go there anyway. But I want to get y'all's thoughts on it.
I mean, it's easiest for the Vikings. They got to travel anyway. The Rams have to worry about not only the fact that their homes are getting destroyed, but they have a football game. And those wildfires are no joke. I mean, I've seen videos. I saw a video today. 2 people are trapped in their home and it's just surrounded their house. And it's just insane to me that it got this big.
Right.
We're thinking about all those people in LA and hopefully they get out safe and, all their stuff doesn't get as destroyed as it could. But, football kind of takes a backseat to something like this. And
for sure,
we know all too well about football taking a backseat to stuff. So
yeah,
this, the Rams are probably, they were probably going to get beat by the Vikings anyway. So no matter where they play, they could have played in LA, they could play in Arizona, Seattle, wherever. They're going to get beat.
Well, okay then. But Shane, what do you think, buddy? A little preview to Joey's pick.
Yeah, I did find it funny. Obviously, I don't think it's going to happen, but it is something that could happen. They played out a scenario where if the Rams and the Chargers both advanced enough a certain way that they would host the AFC NFC championship within like an hour of each other. And I thought that would be interesting to see. I don't think it would happen this year, but I never thought of it that way because they share the stadium. It's almost like, Jets Giants kind of thing.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about the Jets Giants ever doing that.
No,
It's fine.
no. Unless we're hosting the two worst teams in football, we're not gonna have to worry about that. But I do think the Vikings are gonna win that game. The SoFi has no home field advantage when you are watching those games during the regular season. There's more away fans than usually home fans, and the home fans just don't make a lot of noise. So,
Yeah.
But I did think that was worth noting that they potentially the Chargers and Rams could technically host AFC, NFC within an hour of each other.
Would they change the
No,
because the Super Bowl is
Generic.
2 weeks?
generic Los Angeles.
No, not the field. I'm not worried about the field.
Oh, I'm
talking about like, would they just make the gap between the two games bigger? Like, would they just say like, oh, well, this first game is going to kick off at noon, the other's going to kick off at 7?
The only thing that they really have to worry about, and I've seen this happen before, is you would have to exit everyone out the game because they would sell tickets to both games respectively. So they'd have to have a bigger gap, I would assume, because you have to exit everyone out the game and then allow other. It sounds like a logistic nightmare. I don't think you're ever going to have to worry about it, but it just is interesting to.
You would have both end zones would just say Los Angeles. One end zone would be in the Rams font. The other end zone would be in the Chargers font. You would just put an NFL logo slapped in the middle of the field
and call it
and call it a day. Field wise, but and in the field walls, if you want to go that far, because they have them for both teams, maybe you set up a team where you change it, but you just leave it whatever color.
It's the fans that's the problem.
So I can tell you logistically,
they don't want to miss out on the ticket prices for the games.
No, I can tell you logistically how it would work. It'd probably be an hour and a half gap. Security personnel would clear out the stadium beforehand and basically just reset it and just run them back in. That's all it is. Because look, I've worked in stadiums that have done that for like Garth Brooks, for just name a concert or a big name like Taylor Swift when she came down here. Like, I think it's the way it works. They'll give it about an hour and a half gap, get everybody out of there with security personnel, basically do sweeps, get everybody out of there, and then put them back in. That is logistically how that works. It's a nightmare.
You would have to extend
about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Another hour to 2 hours, because you got to worry about warm-ups are certain. There's a certain time frame for that. The team's got to arrive.
Oh, they would be warming up before that, and the teams.
The I don't know if it'd be the easiest thing, but then you'd also have, cameras and all that stuff. You got to tap into satellites. You're going to have CBS and Fox in the building at the same time.
I think that'd be really smart.
Cameras and all that stuff. I mean, that's the least of our concerns as fans. I'm just thinking logistically for the NFL, what would that be like?
They'd probably be like, hey, here's the camera set up. Y'all both use them. There you go.
I mean, the only other thing you could do if it was a big enough problem, then maybe you sit there and go, okay, well, we'll have one game Saturday night, one game Sunday night. You got two primetime games.
Yeah, and that way everybody's happy.
There's 2 weeks between the Sunday game, the last game of the NFC Championship game, and the Super Bowl.
That's true. Well, it'd be a fun scenario if it does happen. I saw that too, and I forgot to mention that in the show notes. But so anything else on the NFL you want to talk about before we kind of wrap things up with some NHL news?
I got nothing else in the NFL.
I'm going to take that as a no then. Oh, it'll be exciting. I do want to say, though, the Rams-Vikings game, just tune into ATS. I think there's going to be a surprise there for y'all. Anyway, we're going to go with the NHL and our resident NHL expert. Broseph, why don't you take us away on a big announcement that happened today?
The NHL has announced, typically they announce it the second period of the Winter Classic going on this year for next year's location, having just taken place at Wrigley Field. They have just announced that the NHL Winter Classic for 2026 will take place at Lone Depot Park in Miami, Florida. Nothing screams a winter wonderland like South Beach.
Come on, Get some little Latin music going on there.
The game is between the 2024 Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, which that team is good. That team could go on a run to repeat. I feel they deserve a Winter Classic, but I don't feel they deserve to host the Winter Classic. Get them to go somewhere up north. Get them to go to New York. The Rangers are going to be the team that they play. Gary Bettman teased it in the press availability during this past Winter Classic that, people are going to call us nuts. I think there's some kind of technology that they're going to have to mitigate the problems that they're going to have. The good thing is it's a closed stadium. So, you won't have as much of a problem with the outside as you would. I do remember that they had a game at Tropicana Field. It was a exhibition before the Lightning were around.
Okay.
And I would say that game did not go well. Speaking of Tampa, they're going to host a stadium series in Raymond James Stadium, an outdoor stadium between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins. That's just to kind of grow the game a little bit more, have another outdoor game. Previously, the furthest south the Winter Classic had gone is Dallas, between Dallas and Nashville. Fantastic game. I was there. It was amazing. I don't see, I think they're trying to, keep the Winter Classic alive and do the stadium series. I think they need to do away with the stadium series, to be honest. It doesn't do anything to really help. Typically, it's just, this is two teams we could have had. And it's just a way that they sell more jerseys.
It just seems like it's a little redundant, honestly, to have the Winter Classic and that. But
to have it in the same state, like, they have
reach.
They had the Heritage. They had the Heritage Classic, which was typically one of the original 6 teams, and it took place in Canada. They do the Winter Classic. They started it in 2007, 2008 between Buffalo Sabres and the Pittsburgh Penguins. It was a success. It snowed. It had that nuance. Since then, ratings have gone down for the game. Dallas was kind of the trajectory up a little bit. It still was below 2 million, but you're competing with football. You're competing with, people are recovering from New Year's. It doesn't have the same feel.
I got you.
When they played the game in Chicago, yes, because it was cold and all that, and it was outside, but it was at night. So, part of the beauty of that game was it was a day game. Puck drop was around noon. I think they're trying to avoid the playoffs, the college football playoff, because they had it on New Year's Eve this past year. They're going to have it on January 2nd this coming year. They're trying to do things different, and I applaud them for it. They're not doing a traditional All-Star game. They're doing a 4-nation face-off.
I saw that.
That's going to be exciting.
At least some bragging rights, right?
Yeah, the biggest bragging rights right now just happened. The U.S. won the World Junior Championship, which was a
awesome,
fantastic game. Went to overtime, but we'll see. We'll see what kind of way they come up with. 80 degrees outside in Tampa for an outdoor game.
Well, like you said, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure the technology is there, but it'll be fun regardless. And if they pull it off, then hats off to them. We'll bring some more fans in, and I think it'd be cool to see hockey in Florida. That's just me, though.
So the unconventional places that they've held an outdoor game, Caesar's Palace in Vegas in '91, was held an outdoor game. I think it got canceled. And then you had Dodger Stadium in LA. Once they started the stadium series, this is where it took off. Dodger Stadium, Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, which was the Winter Classic, and then Carter Finley Stadium at NC State. And that one was pretty good. But it's just a way that they sell more jerseys. The Winter Classic brings out the classics. The Stadium Series brings out some kind of modernized jersey. I think the worst one was the Jersey Devils jersey. It just said Jersey on the chest.
Hey, it's from Jersey, bro. It's from Jersey.
Yeah.
Horrible accent. I apologize to everybody of New Jersey. That is how bad my accent is. But no, it's interesting to see, and I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued for sure.
There's going to be a day where we bring you to a Winter Classic, Tyler. I'm telling you that now.
I have no idea what
Yeah.
y'all are talking about.
It's
Joey
a,
might as well have been speaking French for the last 5 to 10 minutes. I have no idea about any of this information that is being talked about.
The fastest game on ice, damn it.
That is very true.
It's the only game on ice. That's why it's the fastest.
Incorrect. There's ice skating.
There's
curling.
Anyway,
That's not a game. That's not a game.
Anyway. Well, gentlemen, is there anything else y'all would like to talk about? I think we've reached the end of my notes and everything I had for the show. Anything else?
Shane?
I've got the updates on the water polo matchups in London. We'll cover that.
Listen, that's not the big four, okay?
Should take us about 25 to 30 minutes, and then we'll wrap this up.
Look. In all fairness, we kept the hockey talk to the very end of it, and it was about 5 to 10 minutes.
I got to do some research. I just don't understand.
Once the playoffs start up,
no, Shane, I will tell you the playoffs are a lot of fun. Like
I think
I have to give it a shot. I get all
tell you-
these offers for hockey bets. I need Joey to give me some information to utilize all these bonuses that they give me for hockey.
Hey,
I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this right now. The most exciting playoffs, and I'm slightly biased. The most exciting playoffs is the NHL, and the reason I can say that is because a lot of times Game 7 goes to overtime, and it is sudden death. It's not, we're going to continue scoring back and forth. We don't have this. We're going to drive down the field. It's back and forth, and it is physical, and those teams hate each other for those 7 games.
For somebody that enjoys a game where it more than likely than not ends in ties, for you to complain about pace of play is hilarious.
Are you talking about soccer?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't. That is like
That's the
watching
one. That is the one sport.
I'm sorry.
You also gotta remember. I've played that sport since I was 5.
I know. Look, I'm not trying to argue with anybody. I'm not trying to argue with.
That's
you.
like
It was just funny to me.
That's like watching baseball on TV. You played baseball, so you get the nuances of it. I sit there and I go, yep.
Oh, brother, I can't sit down and watch a full game unless I'm like invested in it. But anyway, I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole. We are running a little long in the tooth here. For that one, guys, I'm ready to sign off here. And unless there's anything else, guys, y'all good? Yeah? Ready for some college football? Ready for some NFL playoffs? We will be back tomorrow recording with the ATS pick. So come on and tune on in and make some money. But for that, it has been the Noble Steady Sort of Sports Talk Recap Show. See you next time. Peace.